Hi, thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started on our art piece today. And my daughter Kayla is going to be joining us. My name is Star, and I hope you have a lot of fun. And we're going to use 5 different colors. We're going to start with cobalt blue, then teal, and then chartreuse. And then at the end, we'll use a little bit of white and a little bit of black. So 2 things that you're going to need: sponges, little makeup sponges. Those are going to be our brushes today, and also the canvas, which is a 5x7 canvas. I've already made a template for our painting, so we're going to be painting inside this little house shape, and at the very end we're going to add mountains, and we're going to do that using a template to cover the rest of our painting and add a little mountain at the bottom. So to start, you actually want to take your template and tape it down onto your canvas. And then go ahead and pick up one of your makeup sponges, and we're going to start by going in the lightest color on the bottom. So that's going to be our chartreuse. It's like a really bright green. And the one thing you don't want to do is don't start on the edge, because there's a lot of paint on here and it'll bleed underneath the paper. So what we're actually going to do is start in the middle and then smush our way out to the edge. That way it helps stop the bleeding underneath the paper. And we'll go ahead and tap that in, and we're going to keep it just mainly at the bottom. We'll go up about halfway, but then that's it. And my stencil is a little bit loose, so I'm going to tighten that. Okay, so once you've got that bottom color on there, we're going to pick up a new sponge, and we're going to go into the teal. And again, just as a reminder, don't start at the edge, start towards the center, and then we'll work our way out to the edge. And as we're coming to the end of using our teal, when it starts to run out a little bit on the sponge, then we'll go ahead and lightly tap it down into our first color. And that'll help it blend a little bit. Okay, and then once we finished with that, we'll take another sponge, a clean one, and we'll go into our darker color, which is actually cobalt blue. And same thing, start a little bit in the center, and then go ahead and work your way out to the edge. And that will just help it not to bleed through underneath the paper. And then as the paint starts to run out and dry up a little bit, we're going to go ahead and come down into our second color, the teal, and kind of blend that together. Now I think I'd like to add a little bit more teal back to my painting, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pick up that sponge, dip it back into my teal, and then put a little bit more on there. And I'm going to go up into the blue a little bit, and I'm going to come back down here towards the bottom. And then I'm going to go back to my chartreuse color and put a little bit of that in there and blend it up into the teal. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, if it's a little bit messy, that's even better. It'll look pretty good once we add the mountains. Look a little bit more like sky. Okay, put a little more blue on here. Maybe I'll put a couple little dabs down. Okay, so I think I like that. That looks pretty good to me. I'll do a little dab of teal right here. darken that up. Okay, so now that I've got that done, the next step is going to be adding my mountain. So to add my mountain, I'm going to go back to this little piece here, and it's going to protect most of the sky and let us only put black where we want our mountains to be. So we're going to cover up the top of our painting there. And then we're going to go ahead and use a fresh sponge and get a little bit of black, and very lightly, you don't want to get too much on there, so go ahead and dab a little bit off if it gets too much on there. And we'll come down to the bottom, and we'll go ahead and lightly, very carefully, because black is very hard to get rid of if it gets in the wrong spot. So we're going to go ahead and very lightly tap it on there. Okay, and to me, now a little bit of the color underneath is coming through. That's okay by me. It actually just looks a little more unique and interesting, and I'm going to go ahead and pull off the top part of my stencil here. And now you see we've got ourselves a little tiny mountain range. And the very last step that I'm going to do, well, I should say second to last, I want to go ahead and add a little star. I have an old white paintbrush here. You can use even the end of a pencil or a pen, but I'm just going to dip it into the white, make a little star, and then I'll go ahead and add a few more, just here and there, all the way around. And I think that looks good enough for me. I'm going to go ahead now, and as I'm deciding that I'm done, I think that looks good enough to me, I'm going to take off my stencil. And what we'll be left with right now is like a little house-shaped window if you were looking out and seeing a sunrise or maybe a sunset here and a little mountain range. And the last step we're going to do is I have a little gold marker, and I'm just going to line the edges to clean them up and finish the painting. So let's see. Oops. Fix that. Now you can use a gold marker, you can use a black marker, you can use any kind of paint pen that you have, or if you have gold paint, you can use gold paint just to do the edges. So now it looks like this with the nice cleaned up edges, and I like to leave the background actually white. I just want this image to be what pops out at you. And the last thing that I'm going to do is put it into a frame. Now the frame I got is from the dollar store, and the frame itself is a little bit bigger, but the opening in the window here is 5 by 7, which is the same size as our canvas. So if I take out this backing, and then I go ahead and put my painting in there. Try to get it centered. Put the back on. finished product looks like this. And that's it. Let's go ahead and check in with Kayla and see how she's doing. She's got a really, really bright painting. I did a little less paint on mine. Mine's a lot lighter. Kayla's is a lot more vivid. She's using a little more paint. What do you think, Kayla, so far?
I like how mine is, but I've had to go in because I accidentally smeared some of it. So I took an extra sponge and I blended it more, like since this one didn't have any paint. So yeah, and then now I'm going in and fixing up anything that I don't like about it. But anything
really
that
good.
I don't like, yeah, it is pretty good. Anything I don't like, somebody else might like. So even if it's not exactly how my mom's is, it's still how mine is. So it's unique and my own. And
Very
now
good.
I'm ready to put on
Your mountain range. Awesome.
Yeah. I like to press down the sides just in case to make sure that less paint will bleed through or
Yes.
no paint at all.
Very smart.
And I do the edges first so I can finish that and then not have any paint bleed through when I go in and get the middle part.
Oh, that's a good idea. So Kayla's doing it a little bit different than I did. She's doing the edges first, but to make sure it doesn't bleed underneath, she's holding down that edge that she's working on, and then she's filling in the middle, which is also a great way to do it.
And since like from, paint on my arm. Since like I can see like underneath the stencil a bit, I'm like make sure to check and see if anything's bleeding through and if I need less paint. And I'm doing really thin coats, so it's not like a big glob of paint that'll leak underneath the stencil. I need more paint. So
We can add a little bit more, no problem. Very cool.
yeah. Ready.
Okay. So now Kayla's going to go ahead and take off the covering that she laid down to protect her sky so she could do her mountains. And we're going to take a look at her mountains. Perfect. Okay. And so now, Kayla, you have the option to just leave your sky like that. It's pretty, it's really pretty. Or you can add some white stars. And I'm just going to move your painting in so we can see what you're doing.
I'm gonna do a really thin layer of teal because some of the paint got taken off.
Okay, so you're going to do a little touch up.
Yeah. And that's good like that.
Okay.
I think I'll do stars. Do we have another brush?
Let me see if I've got a smaller.
That I can show you this one?
want to do like splatter? Yeah, this one.
Feels like I'm wearing fuzzy socks because my kid's asleep.
And so Kayla's using another brush so she can splatter to get a little bit more of a smaller, finer dots for the stars, little splatters. Very nice. And it's important that she still has her template on to protect the edges. So she's just painting inside the template still. And at the very, very end, when we're done painting, that's when we'll remove it. Very nice.
All done.
Okay, let's go ahead and take off your template, and then you can do the edging with the gold marker.
I need help getting this stencil off.
It's really stuck on there, huh?
Yeah.
Stencils off. And so Kayla's going in and she's cleaning up the edges where a little tiny bit snuck under the template there. And some of that might even just be covered with the gold pen.
Yeah.
It won't even show.
All done.
Okay. So one thing I want to show on yours, Kayla, and I'm going to show the difference here. So you see how nice hers looks with a little bit of splatter. It adds a lot of stars to it. Mine's a little more dry. Hers is a little more bright and colorful and intense. So no matter which way you like to do it, they both turn out pretty great. Good job. Okay, that's it. The last step to do is just to sign your name at the bottom or pop it into a frame, and I hope you enjoyed today's painting.